Sail to India by AEG. This is a small box game, same size as other small games by AEG, such as Love Letter or Valley of the Kings. Small size of the box, but there is, well, there's a lot of gaming to be had with the stuff that you find in here. This game that I'm going to tell about in a little bit is not a filler. It's not very long, but it's not a filler. It is a very rewarding and pretty meaty game. The topic, well, the players represent nobles around, I would say, the 15th, the 16th, 17th century, and they're trying to expand their economic and cultural influence from Lisbon to the east all the way to India. There is a card there that represents Lisbon. Then you have other cards, 3 of which are face up at the beginning of the game. The other ones are face down, and they represent the areas that the players will explore. The last card is India. You use a total of 9 cards in a 3-player game. There are 3 extra cards that you use to extend the line in a 4-player game. This is a game for 3 or 4 players. Each player has 2 cards, one representing possessions and other things that need to be kept track of. One such thing is money. Players start with a variable amount of money depending on whether they are first, second, third, or 4th player. The later you start, the more money you get. There is a box, or I should say a track, to represent the speed at which the ships of the player travel. All players start with ships that travel at speed of 1. And you have 3 cubes there in the technology area. There's a little scientist that you can use during the game. Something interesting, as you can see, there are only 5 slots on the money track. So what happens if you have 5 money and you make more money? Well, you need another cube. You need in some way to purchase another cube, and you place it here, and you start using that to keep track of money. This, for example, represents 7 money, 7 wealth, 7 coins, call it whatever you like. The same applies to the victory point track. Every player has a card such as this one to record victory points, but there are no cubes on it at the beginning, so you also have to purchase somebody to keep track of your victory points, the ones that you acquire during the game. And if you have 5 and you get in a condition where you would be able to earn more, guess what? Again, you need to use one of your cubes. These cubes can be used for a variety of things, and they can be used for different things in different moments of the game. It's a very smart idea to have these cubes as generic resources that the players can choose how to use. And everybody gets a cube on the Lisbon card at the beginning of the game. I've set up the game. This is more or less how the game would look like a start. Well, there's only 1 player, but the game is really not playable in solitaire. There are also 3 cards here that represent various technological advantages that the players can acquire during the game, but I'll talk about that later. Now, what happens during a turn? During a turn, each player takes 2 actions. You can take the actions in any order, you can repeat the same action, and there is a list of actions you can choose from. There's also a pretty good player aid that gives a lot of information and definitely is useful when starting to play the game. One of the things that you can do is to spend a money to place a cube from your stock onto the Lisbon card. That's it. Very simple. That's one of the possible actions. Another action, super important one that you will be performing often, is to move ships. Ships are represented by those cubes if you decide to use those cubes as ships, because as I said, they can be used for other things too. When you take the move ships action, you can move any and all of your ships. You do not have to move them all. You choose, but you can move as many as you want. Ships travel at the speed or up to the speed indicated on your card. So at the beginning they travel by 1. And for example, if I want to move those ships from there, I can move them only there. I move them by 1. And that's it. These cards, the top of the card or the main part of the card represents land, and the bottom card indicates water. So everything that is under the card is sea. It is where you place your ships. At the end of your movement, after you move your ships, as part of your movement of the ships, as part of the move ships action, you can convert your ships into trade goods, which are the ones at the bottom of the cards. What do? You simply place the cubes there, and that's it. Now you control those goods. You haven't sold them yet. That's a separate action, but you control them. And there can only be one cube on each such trading good. Another thing that you can do as you move ships and explore is, well, yeah, to explore new lands, to boldly go where no Portuguese nobleman has gone before. If you move on a ship onto an undiscovered area, well, you have to stop movement. You cannot discover several lands in a single turn. This is the only thing that you cannot do more than once per turn. So when you get there, even if you have other movement points still available, you have to turn the card face up. You discover the land. You gain a victory point, which you need to be able to record on your track. You get a victory point, and well, you have discovered a new area. Yay! That's pretty good. These are the things that apply to moving ships. You can move ships, discover new lands, and then convert ships into trade goods. Then you also need to sell those trade goods. To sell the trade goods, you simply transfer them you transfer your cubes from trade goods area back to Lisbon. And you get a wealth, a money, a coin for each type of resource that you are selling. For example, I will get a point for the diamonds, a point for coffee, and a point for sugar, because it's 3 different goods. I would get 3 points. But if I had, for example, multiple sugar, such as in this case, then the multiple sugars will still only be worth 1. It will still be only 3 points. There are also markets. I'll tell you in a little bit how you can control the markets. Marketplaces are boxes with that symbol. If you control that symbol, you can pretty much sell that good without having to transfer it back to Lisbon. If this is a situation and I decide to take the sell trade goods action, then I would earn 1, 2, 3 money, and I have to move only those 2 guys back to Lisbon. The cube on the marketplace stays there because I control that marketplace. Selling goods also gets you victory points, and there is here trading chart that tells you how many points you get. As you can see, you always get a point of wealth per per type of good that you sell, but the number of victory points that you get is not 1 to 1. It's extremely tough to get 6 of a single type. I still have not to get 6 different goods in a single sale. I still haven't seen that happening. I managed to do 5 once and I was pretty happy. Still lost the game. Anyhow, you can sell your goods, and sell you should, because you need money to do a lot of other things that you want to do. For example, to build buildings. If you have ships or cubes under a location or in the trade goods area, then you can spend 2 money to purchase one of the buildings on that card, and only one player can build a certain building. But if I'm here, I can spend 2 money and build that building, which is a church. Or I'm here, I spend 2 money, build that building, which is a stronghold. There are only 3 types of buildings: marketplaces, churches, and strongholds, which are all worth victory points at the end of the game. But the marketplaces are also useful because you can sell goods from there. The strongholds during the game are also useful because you can move your ships from that card as if they were from Lisbon. So strongholds are useful later in the game to easily and quickly explore this part of the board. Churches don't have any function during the game, but they're worth a higher amount of victory points at the end of the game than marketplaces and strongholds are. You can acquire technology. That's another reason why you need money. So you can purchase technology advantages. To purchase a technology advantage, you place one of your scientists on the technology that you're purchasing. As you can see, there are 12 possible things that you can purchase. You place your cube there, you pay the amount of money that you have there, and you gain that advantage. There is a large variety of things that you can get. You can, for example, get victory points when you acquire new technology, get victory points when you move 3 of your ships from Lisbon or from a stronghold that you own. You can build buildings without spending action points. I'll just give you a sense of some of the actions that I've seen, of the technologies that I've seen being most popular. Mapping. When you discover a phase down coastal town, you pay a wealth and gain a victory point, an additional one. And this is very important because this technology section is worth victory points at the end of the game. If you have this technology, then you get 3 victory points at the end of the game, just like that. Here you get 2 additional victory points for each marketplace, here for each stronghold, and this one for each church. So these boxes here are usually part of a middle long-term strategy because you need to have at least 2 of the buildings that will score with this type of technology for the technology to be useful. Last thing that you can do with your money is to increase the speed of your ships by paying the amount of money that is required to do so and by spending an action. With 2 money and an action, you go from 1 to 2, with an action, and 4 money from 2 to 3. And that becomes the number of cards by which your ships can move. And this is pretty much it. Each turn you take 2 of those actions. Generally speaking, you're moving your ships back and forth to make as much money as you can. You are then reinvesting your money to improve your ships, to buy technologies, to build buildings. And you continue like this until a player meets the end of game conditions. The game ends when India is discovered, and India is worth 2 victory points to the player that discovers it, as opposed to other cards which are only 1. Or the game also ends when 2 players run out of cubes from their stock. Actually, the game doesn't end at that second, that triggers the last round. Every other player still gets to play around. After that, you look... you tally the final score, which is the number of victory points that players earned during the game and that they recorded on that track, plus buildings, strongholds, and marketplaces are worth a single victory point, churches are worth 2 victory points, plus victory points from technology. You total all of your victory points, and at that point the player with the highest total is the winner. This game is a gem, a true gem. Small like a gem and with a lot of light shining through it. It is not like the mechanics that are in there are particularly innovative, the things that I showed you probably you've seen in other games, but the combination of them is particularly well done, and it's particularly elegant and economic. This is a game that lasts less than an hour, that you can play fast and teach without too much trouble, even to casual gamers. I mean, this is probably no more complicated than Settlers of Catan once you add Cities and Knights, and probably it's just a small notch above regular Settlers of Catan, so you can play with non-gamers and teach it fast and they can get it. But what's then fun is that the game is really engaging, is really full of possibilities. You feel involved all the time, and even if the game doesn't last that long, you make a ton of decisions. You make a lot of decisions, and you have to create a strategy, a long-term strategy. You have to react to what other players are doing. It doesn't feel like a multiplayer solitaire like other games because the players are interacting, not so much directly, but they do hurt each other by occupying resources that other players are clearly going for. You can occupy trade goods, you can build buildings before other people do, you can take advantage of technologies before other people do. It is not just a matter of finding a form formula and applying it every time. It really is a matter of coming up with some possible strategies, adjusting things as they go, and try to figure out what the other people are doing. For example, we had a game where a player gained a lot of initial advantage, and then he started to go for India, trying to end the game as soon as possible. Then the players had to adjust their strategy, which pretty much became, let's try to build as many churches as possible. And that player won, but not by much. Things would have gone differently. The cool thing really is that there are many paths to victory. There definitely are. You can go for exploration, you can exploit technologies, you can become the company of Jesus and start like a missionary building churches right and left, and take advantage of the technology that gives a lot of points for that at the end of the game. There are different synergies between the parts of the game that you can create. There are different ways in which you can go about things and to pursue your path. And again, there are ways of tweaking things as you go. Really, these are things that you would expect from a much larger game. Larger not just in terms of the size of the box, but in terms of the length of the rule book and of the complexity of the rules. This is a very good meeting between a set of rules which is overall pretty lean and an experience that is fully rewarding. Also, no random factor in the game, but for the way in which the cards are shuffled at the beginning of the game. But this is something that affects everybody in the same way. It is not like a roll of dice that may hurt some players and then the following player rolls better. Everybody is subjected to that random condition. Other than that, the game is absolutely airtight. It is a matter of finding a path that may work for you and figuring out how your path can be the best one among the other ones that the players are building. What a fun, nice game. I'm very impressed by this design. I'm pleased by the components. The rulebook is good, gets the job done. There are a couple of things that could be clearer. Sometimes the timing is a little ambiguous. You have to, well, figure things out. But overall, the rulebook is perfectly manageable and gets the job done. Sail to India. A lot of game in a small box and for a low price tag. Personally, my impression of this game is extremely favorable. Give it a try. It's really a lot of fun.